Welcome to another conversation about democracy from the campus of Washington and Jefferson College. Our guest today is Steve Young, Global Executive Director of the Co-Roundtable, an international cooperative of business and government leaders working together to promote principles of ethics for life in a global economy. Steve, welcome to Washington and Jefferson.
John, it's a delight to be here and to see your very special campus and to be in a place which not only was named for two famous presidents who sought ideals, but a history that goes back to the start of our country, really. It's a real privilege to be here.
Well, Steve, you're here to speak as a part of our inaugural Symposium on Democracy, and you're making the case that the middle class is an essential element of a sustainable democracy. How so?
Well, democracy, I mean, first we have to think about democracy, because many people say democracy and they think of majority voting, the people versus the elite or something. But what thoughtful people from Aristotle on down have pointed to is that anybody can abuse power, either a king or frankly even a pope or ordinary people. You give people power and they don't have good character, it gets abused. So what you want for a successful democracy are checks and balances. How do you get checks and balances? You have to have decentralized power. How do you decentralize power in an open society? It's through lots of people who have some wealth, lots of people who have some property, lots of people who have some savings accounts, who have some education, who can run for office, who can write letters to the newspaper or on social media these days. They can tweet and this, that. If you don't have that solid core of people who feel responsible and have some power, then your political system is dominated either by representatives of poor people or by an elite, which is running things for their own advantage.
Now, you've expressed some concern that in the United States, our middle class is declining, that we're becoming maybe more polarized. Why do you believe that's true, and what do you think is driving that trend?
Well, one of the things that's bothering me a lot, John, is that there's a lot of data that shows our middle class has been declining since the mid-1970s. For example, there's a chart you can find which shows that the average income for full-time working male has been flatlined since 1974. It means no increase in the real value of earnings. The earnings of women have been up a little bit, getting closer to the average earnings of men, but also it's a really slow climb. So women haven't actually earned that much more. You put those two things together, and that means the middle class has not been gaining. You put other graphs together that shows that an increasing share of wealth and income is going to the top 1% and 10%. And the bottom 50% down hasn't done well at all. Now, 50% down in your society is a lot of people. There's also charts you can look at that show today, in 2018, most Americans on average are spending more than they're making. Now, how do you protect the middle class status if you're not saving, if you're adding to your credit cards, there's no retirement, you're getting weaker and weaker economically and socially? What worries me, John, is that our elites are not paying attention to this. The data has been out there a long time, and the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the politicians in Washington, the commentators on PBS, they're not talking about this.
Let's talk a little bit about the global economy, going beyond the United States. And you and I have worked together for years through the Co-Roundtable. Tell us a little bit about the work of the Co-Roundtable and how you think this kind of global dialogue among leaders can address the kinds of issues that you're talking about with us today.
Well, the problem, I would say, with the global economy, with a free economy, with capitalism, is where's responsibility? Is capitalism and private property and free markets only about me, my money, my power, my family? Or do I have to give something in return for the money I make? If I run a small company, if I run a small store here in Washington, this community, do I have to care about my employees? Do I have to be fair with my customers? Do I have to disclose awkward things about a product I'm selling? or can I just take advantage of everybody, take the cash and run? Our feeling is that the system only works well for everybody, and particularly for middle classes, if people in business are responsible. So the work of the co-roundtable is to sort of set out what are some guidelines, what are some principles that you can think about, but more importantly, you can incorporate into your business. And then, John, we have another challenge in a global setting is, so I happen to come from a Christian tradition. What do I say to Chinese? They come from a different ethical tradition. What do I say to Muslims? I'm a Protestant by birth, and what do I say to Catholics? Is there a common framework for responsibility among all members of the human family? We think so. And we're trying to draw on the different traditions and show where that common tradition is.
Well, we're grateful for the work that you do in leading those conversations internationally. We're also grateful that you've taken time to be with us here at Washington and Jefferson College for our symposium. We've been talking with Steve Young, Global Executive Director of the Co-Roundtable, who is at Washington and Jefferson College for the inaugural Symposium on Democracy.